Okay, so I want to start out by saying it's time to eat crow, because about 2 weeks ago when I picked up this car, I was talking about how nice the weather was. And as I walked down to the workshop, it's been about this way for, about 2 weeks, ever since I picked up the car. As I look around, you'll see that it's nothing but snow and cold. So it's hampered our progress a little bit. And I'm really looking forward to the spring weather. It's supposed to be sometime late next week. We might start to reach into the 40s. But until then, we bundle up and do our best to work with what we have. I'm not really planning to work much on the car today. But one of the things I do want to try to accomplish is go through some of the various parts that came in these boxes over here. One of the things that's missing is there should be a generator sitting right about here. I'm hoping that there's one in the boxes over there, otherwise I'm going to have to try to go find one. So I want to go through some of those and see what's available. For the most part, it's not really all that complex. You've got a starter that sits back down here that's connected to the flywheel, and it'll go through some type of starter switch like this that comes from the ignition down to the starter. The starter switch will also run to the coil here, which then runs onto the top of the distributor cap, over to the spark plugs and down into the cylinders. So it's pretty much the same as I won't say newer vehicles, because things are more electronically controlled these days, but up until about 20 years ago this technology was still pretty common. So looking at this side of the engine, that's mainly what seems to be missing to me. When I come around to this side, it's missing a cap here for this is where the oil goes in. So I hope to find a cap, and then an air cleaner here on the front end of the carburetor. But for the most part, everything else seems to be in place. I'd mentioned I think I mentioned this in an earlier video, that they've replaced the old vacuum fuel system. It's replaced that with an electronic fuel pump. So the one thing I like about this car is that it's pretty simplistic from an electrical standpoint. And while I'm an electrical engineer, I still appreciate the fact that there's not as much here. And being that this is an old engine, I really appreciate the fact that from an electrical standpoint, it's pretty simplistic. So when it comes time to firing it up, there should be minimal points that when it doesn't work, because I don't expect it's going to work right away, but when it doesn't work, I'll have to troubleshoot along those paths, so it should make it a lot easier. So I'm going to go through the boxes and see what's there, and hopefully I'll find some of these parts. So I'm in luck. Pretty early on I came over here and looked, and what do we have here? It's a generator. I don't know if it's the generator that works on there. I'll have to look that up and see if I can find out the details. This is a 6-volt system, so hopefully the output of this matches what the car needs, and also that this is able to mate up with this threaded assembly there. So the way this works, there's no belt on this, but you've got the starter that's connected to the flywheel back here, that's connected to the crankshaft. And up on the front end here, at the bottom of that crankshaft, it's connected to a belt to the fan, and also inside of here, it's a timing chain, and that timing chain connects it to the crankshaft here, or the camshaft rather, and it also, you can see it's connected to this right here, and that drives the rotation up inside the distributor cap, and it also looks like it connects to the back of the generator to rotate it. So I'm hoping that that's the case and that I'll be able to find a way to connect those and also mount that in there. So we'll see. This is the old vacuum fuel system. So this would have fuel in it that came from the back end, and this side would go out down to the carburetor, and you'd actually be able to see fuel sitting in this glass bell down here. And again, it's all, once it gets, it sucks it up from the back of the fuel tank that sits in the back of the car through a vacuum, and then it basically drips down through here through gravity down into the carburetor. This looks like another version of it, a green version. Maybe they put the electronic fuel pump on just to get it working, and the goal was to switch back over to the something like the original vacuum system. Once they had everything fixed and working. An old coil. Those are basically a step-up transformer. Look at the size of these spark plugs. Those things are massive. I think the ones in my truck, which has a 400 horsepower engine, they're not even that big. This is almost like Christmas. So I opened this once before, but let's take a look. So I'm thinking at some point, this is a lot of original stuff. When they took it off, it went in here, and then they ultimately replaced it with something else. So I think if I go to put this all back together and something doesn't seem right, I think I'll dump this out and start looking in here first. So this is what I thought was the fuel tank float. And I don't know if you can see it, but this spindle is driving up there. So essentially what it would do is, as this changed here, it would change the resistance inside of here across these contacts, and that would dictate how much voltage would pass through here, and it would drive the gauge. So this, well, at first I was a little uncertain about how this would reach to the bottom. Now I know, because it looks like it would go in like that, all the way down, and then that cork piece would be sitting way low. So this I was uncertain what it was for. Almost seems like a windshield wiper. And while I know the window is not that big, It seemed like that might be excessively small. But I guess you never know. There's a lot I don't know about this car. But I do know those came together, so I will keep them together. So this would not have been part of this car, because the Falcon Knight Motor Corporation was its own company until 1929, when it was purchased by Willys. So I believe that the original owner, or one of the previous owners, had a Willys Knight before, and I think some of these parts came from that vehicle. Oddly enough, a lot of the parts were interchangeable. So, okay, so here we have the headlights that will eventually be mounted up front. I do recall somewhere there's glass in here. In one of these bins there's going to be some glass, because I've seen it. Oh, more headlights. So I think this is the glass piece for the headlights. So these would end up getting mounted underneath here. Some way, shape, or form. Maybe the other way around. Yeah. Like that. And then over top of the covers. I pretty much organized everything over here on this back area now. And so I think I have a pretty good handle on what I have and what I don't have. And I feel pretty positive about all the missing parts that I have. There's just like one or two items that I think I need to find. And I've already started doing some canvassing on those parts. Hopefully I'll hear some responses back, and yeah, we'll see where we go from there. Okay, so today we want to do a little test of the differential and of the brakes. So we know the brakes don't stick on because we've pushed this thing up onto a transport. Have no idea the state of the differential, so I'm going to be back here and I'm going to let Billy spin the tires a bit, and hopefully they spin opposite directions. So Billy, why don't you go ahead and spin this tire here? This one? Yep. Oh, that sounds like a brake. Sounds like a brake's dragging over there. Push it. Why are you pushing it the other way? Trying to push it the opposite way of me. Okay, there's definitely a dragging brake here, but these brakes haven't been used in a while, so okay, let's do this. Okay, Billy, why don't you crawl up in there? Easy does it. Okay, when I tell you to, go ahead and push on the brake pedal. You know which one that is, right? Okay. Go ahead. Oh, they stopped. That's push on it. Hold on it. That's a good sign. I can't push against it. Okay. That's good. Okay, so let's set these back tires down on the ground or back on the
Test the brake what is in here?
No, it doesn't matter. We want to test the front brakes though, so let's come on out. We're going to slide the car dollies back underneath these. Take these floor jacks out. Okay, so I'll lift it up.
Okay.
Don't go from the side. Going from the end. Okay, why don't you go around and get the other one? In a little further. Okay. So I'll let it down easy. Okay. We'll move around to the front end. I'm not quite square underneath it, but it'll allow us to do what we need to do. So you get in there, we'll do the brake test again. Okay, don't do anything yet, let me listen. There's a little bit of drag. Okay, go ahead. You got it on tight?
Yeah.
Okay, now that's pretty good now. Go ahead and push it on. Let it off. A little drag over here, but they've not been used in a while, so. Okay, go ahead. Is it on all the way?
Yeah.
All right, so absolutely no stopping there. Definitely have some work to do on the brakes there. The back brakes are a lot better, but these front brakes, yeah, they're not going to cut it. All right, so a few other things since I've not been working as much on the car because I wanted to keep moving to try to stay warm. This part of the workshop has been converted into a smaller paint booth, and it didn't cost me anything. I had everything here on hand. This is a screen door that we used to have in our chicken house. The rest of it's just plastic that I put up with some 2x4s that I had on hand. So I cleaned all this out. the intention is that I will do all my painting in here. You can see I've already got a lot of the parts that we need to, or that we're ready to start sanding and painting as soon as the weather warms up. And yeah, I moved all the spare trim and inside panel pieces in here too, just to move them out of the way. Here's an old washer and an old gas tank. Those are going to be some of our initial test paint jobs, just to see how my skills are. So yeah, so we've got a couple of things that we can try it out on.